most amazing thing to me, Bob, and they don't like it when I tell this, but it's true. They run this thing on this little lady's Social Security check and whatever donations they can get.
This thing is Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge. It's a second chance for critters who barely had a first chance. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. The odds are good that if you've ever been to Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge, you were lost. It's in the woods in Greenfield on the county road just above the Studmill Road intersection. Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge has been rescuing unusual animals for years, and it's mostly a secret carried out on a shoestring. As I stand at this one spot on the road next to the woods, there are 2 llamas, several alpacas, a sheep, a donkey, and a goat, and a whole bunch of people right there in front of me waiting. Over there, a wolf. Over the other way, exotic birds of the type that originated in Asia. Behind it all, at the tree line, an emu struts back and forth. That's an Australian bird. Next to the road, a big guard dog, and I don't know that breed. Lynn Stark and her family are tending over 100 rescued animals, and they're doing it on a shoestring. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Right by the sign that says keep out. The story starts at the gate of Samsara on the county road in Greenfield. They're waiting for me out in the small pasture next to the hay bale, surrounded by some of those exotic animals. First, I got to take a moment to enjoy the signs that line the fence, most of them tongue-in-cheek. Signs like emu crossing, attack snakes, beware of alligators. One sign wondering if you can make it to the gate faster than the guard dog can. Well, if this is the guard dog, I've got nothing to worry about. A puppy is the first one to greet me.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am good. Whoops.
So I've already been licked.
Yep. You got half the battle won. Randy Blevins.
Bob Duchesne.
Glad to meet you, Bob.
Nice to
this
meet
is
you.
Lynn Stark.
Hi, how do you do?
Then is Samsara.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Kind of.
This is Fawn.
Lynn Stark is the matriarch. She's in her 70s now. She raised 7 kids, and most of the family is still around to help out, including some grandkids. Randy Blevins is a local musician fronting a band called 5 Wheel Drive. He's the male voice you hear now and then here. You're going to be hearing all these voices chiming in because all of them can tell this story. They're all doing the hard work, and their only reward is knowing they've saved these animals. Oh, and that loud noise behind us, that's a female guinea hen, and I don't know why she's all wound up.
Hard work.
That's the hard work.
Georgie.
And her son, Justin.
Justin, how do you do?
She has 3 nice, big, strapping sons that we use for all kinds of muscle work.
Mm-hmm.
And these are part of the crew.
That's everybody's girlfriend right there. That's Belle.
Yeah.
What, the goat?
Yes.
She really friendly?
She had a really tough life to start with. That's why she's so small.
It's supposed to be a big goat.
Mm-hmm.
She had a tough time of it right in the beginning.
At 5 months old, she was only about 8 foot tall.
Wow. So what went wrong?
Hunger, illness,
Neglect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She came here with a twin, but the twin never made it. We had him on penicillin. She was wearing, I have Pomeranian dogs. She was wearing one of the dog sweaters to keep warm. That's how little she was.
Oh.
But
So how did she come into your possession?
She was transferred here by another refuge that was kind of overrun. The woman only has 1 acre of land, and she was getting more animals in than she could take. And she came with some other stuff, but where she stayed little, she can never be bred. She can never be used for anything but a pet.
so it's like a mascot.
And because it ate all kinds of things, following all the people around, human food, potato chips, she became kind of a mascot. This is Berlioz.
Berlioz is a llama?
Berlioz is a llama. The woman who owned him broke her foot and wound up having to get rid of the animal she had. Her husband had also lost his job. That put her out of work. And they had to make some tough decisions about what to do about their animals while they were unemployed. And he came here, but he was a pasture llama. He lived with a sheep. That was it. And he has the same farrier now that he had back then. And one of the things he tells us is that Berlioz was kind of a wild thing. You know, didn't like humans, had originally come from an abused home, had issues with people touching his face, his ears, his hands. It took 6 men to hold him down for the farrier to trim his hooves. Now, as you can tell, Berlioz is kind of like a dog.
Well, my experience with llamas is they don't mind being around people, but they really don't love being touched.
He loves you to scratch his neck.
Is that right?
You scratch his neck and he will lean right into it and wants you to pet him, and he loves treats like cookies and cupcakes and things he can't have very often, but he loves them just the same.
That explains one llama, but you've got what?
One
llamas.
other llama.
Two
Okay.
llamas, the rest are alpacas.
Okay. Well, that was going to be my next question. How do I tell the difference between a llama and an alpaca? Because
Llamas are bigger.
okay.
They're
That's
bigger,
really the
and
only...
If you really look, their face and their hair are a little different. But, so there's the two llamas.
The alpacas have fuzzier faces. They haven't eaten in a week, can you tell?
Yeah.
They always act like that. Because we just had the hay delivered and we rolled the bale in.
Yeah.
So they actually had run out. There was only a little left on the ground.
whole half an hour.
Yeah.
Well, I understand you had a hay supplier and then they ran out.
They ran out. They had a hard time finding help this year and weren't able to do as many bales, and misjudged how many he'd have for sale as opposed to what he'd be using, because it was also his first year doing round bales instead of square bales, so he miscalculated like the equivalent, and suddenly we were without. He has offered to pick up hay if we can find it,
Yeah, he'll even go with his truck and get it to
but
help us out.
We're
But
buying it here, there, and everywhere, wherever we can.
Well, that must be the real challenge, is when you suddenly find out you don't have hay.
yes,
Normally, we contract for hay somewhere in June or July when they first start cutting. We say, we're going to buy from you, we're going to need this many bales, and that's how it works. And then come next spring, we recontract with them or find someone else, you know, take bids, that sort of thing. But in January, everybody's got their hay basically spoken for.
But I understand you obviously got a couple of bales here, so you were able to find some.
then we've got a couple more under the tarp.
Yeah, okay. But you're going to need more this winter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
we're still on the hunt.
A bale in the refuge lasts about 3 weeks, and a bale in the pasture lasts 4 days.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to give you or sell you hay, how would they get a hold of you? Just in case anyone's actually listening to this radio show.
You think nobody does?
It's just Bob Duchesne. Who would listen?
I do. I used to listen whenever I was in my truck. Yep.
But
Best way to contact us is on Facebook.
Yeah, and you're easy to find on Facebook because there really aren't a lot of Samsaras on Facebook.
Nope.
no, there's
And there
not.
are telephone numbers listed on there where we can be texted, called, messaged.
Whatever.
So what does Samsara mean? Where did the name come from?
It's a Sri Lankan word. It means to start all over again from the beginning. Kind of like reincarnation. Because a lot of things come here abused and sick, and chance to start over.
So all these animals are getting a second chance.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And some of them, like Berlioz, we promised that he would stay here, that he would never go anywhere else. He's got a
Because-
crippled leg, you know. He's
He's got one bad back hip. He's not good for like a pasture guardian, so to speak.
But if you can find other homes for these animals...
Oh, sometimes they go out.
You
Yep.
certainly
Which
look.
is why it changes all the time. You know, certain ones. Gabrielle, thank you. I don't know why it wouldn't come to me. This is almost. She is like 10 years old. The alpaca, which is pretty old for an alpaca. You can't breed her anymore. You can't. You know, she belonged to an elderly woman who suddenly passed away, and
It was a pet.
she still kind of is.
She'll probably just stay here.
Most of what we have here at the moment are our permanent residents.
Do you have summer residents too?
Well,
More stuff comes in.
Yeah.
In the spring, then we've got the police department calling us, and animal control in Bangor, and
They find weird things in strange people's apartments.
at the university, the kids get themselves weird stuff, tarantula, spiders, and snakes, and then when they move out, they leave them.
So you take care of spiders and snakes as well?
I like spiders.
We have snakes.
Yes, I do.
She's the spider lady. I'm the snake lady.
we also have rats and a Chilean ground squirrel.
Rats as in wild rats or pet rats? Or
Domesticated ones. The woman lost her apartment
Because she had rats, or?
Well, no, because it was just one of those financial things,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they were her pets.
More and more,
And
you
Trish.
see people who lose their homes and have to.
In fact, Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge has expanded its mission a bit. And that all starts when Lynn Stark was dragged by a cow. That story is coming up. The voices you hear are Lynn Stark, her daughters Georgie and Fawn, and local musician Randy Blevins. I'm at Samsara in Greenfield, and this is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. I'm at Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge, which is really off the beaten track, on the county road in Greenfield. We'll get to it later on. But Samsara needs a barn, which is why Randy Blevins is here with us today. He's a musician. There's going to be a barn dance at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Old Town on February 21st. 8 bands will play from noon to 7 that day. Here at Samsara, Lynn Stark and her kids and grandkids have made a permanent home for 100 unusual animals, all rescues, and now a temporary home for more normal pets. Now, how did that get started?
3 years ago, I broke my hip. I got dragged by a wild cow, never been touched by people, and went for a rodeo ride. And while I was in the hospital, the kids brought one of my little Poms up to visit me because I missed him so bad. And the lady in the other bed started crying. She said the police came after she was in the hospital. The police came and had her sign a paper, and they took her dog to the pound because there was no one to take care of it. And she was crying and saying, when I go home, the dish is going to be there, the bed is going to be there, the leash is going to be there, but no little dog. So we opened up an emergency shelter, and right now we're taking care of 2 cats and 2 little Cocker Spaniel dogs. Both people lost their jobs, then lost their homes. They're trying to get into a new place, and they would have lost their pets too.
Hannaford donates all their produce that would go in the trash to the refuge.
So he's
And-
spoiled by,
So they are used to being handed apples, carrots.
see him cringe? So don't hit me.
Oh, but loves being scratched though by the neck if once he trusts you. Huh?
Excuse me a second. I'm just scratching a llama. He thinks my microphone is a treat.
What do you think? Come here. You just want to be spoiled, you little bugger.
He's like, food.
Good, what do you got in your hands? Got some?
So obviously, I can see the llamas, the alpacas, the goats, and sheep, or one sheep.
One donkey, one sheep.
Yeah, one donkey. So what else you got? Let's take a look around.
Okay.
The whole property here at Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge isn't very big. It's only about 50 yards to walk over to the bird pen, which is full of geese, ducks, chickens, and birds I don't recognize.
Plus, in the winter, we have stuff put away. You can't have snakes outside, or I have a pheasant in my living room in a cage,
Yeah.
Not loose.
and snakes in an aquarium.
You would have snakes outside, I presume in a pen of some kind.
Yeah.
What kind of snakes are you stuck with?
They're California corn snakes.
Oh, those are docile.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
One's red and one's white. Then there's poultry of all kinds.
Yeah. Now, obviously I can make out what the turkey is.
There are also geese,
Geese in here, yeah.
scobies, ducks, guineas, chickens, roosters.
All right, and the guy who's now popping out of the shed there was on top. Is he the one who was making all the noise earlier?
His mate was.
The women are the only ones that make that noise.
Is that right?
Yes. And it's whoever's the lead female. If you had 50 of them, there would only be one female that would stand up there and do that.
You had 50 of them?
Yeah. Now, all these birds are actually not paying all that much attention to us. It's not like they're looking to be fed right now. Is that
That's
accurate?
because they've already eaten.
They have eaten, okay.
You can, if you look, you can still see some of it on the ground. But
They eat in the morning, and then they eat before they go to bed. And right now, they're like, it's not food time.
I was
We're
going to
not
see if I
hungry.
could get them all to come out. Chick, 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 chick. Come on, chickie, 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 chickies.
Yeah, just don't let the turkey out.
Well, we're on the county road, just up from where it intersects with the Stud Mill Road. I know this area very well, and I know that it's absolutely infested with owls and hawks. So how do you keep these guys alive?
Before it gets dark.
On the edge of the fence there laying on the ground.
Do you see it?
Yep. Oh yeah.
The little puppy that you were...
Where'd the little puppy go?
The little puppy's right here.
That is the same thing, only not 12 weeks old.
Only much bigger and willing to chase off bad things.
And they will chase. They're a livestock guardian dog. They're Turkish Kangles.
Turkish Kangal?
And it belongs to her, but they patrol and constantly protect whatever they perceive as their flock, so to speak.
And this is his group. He will run off fox, bobcat, coyote, stray dog, hawk, owl. They are semi-nocturnal, so they run at dawn and dusk, the same as most of your predators.
There's a lot of coyotes in the area, and more than one could come in at a time. He's able to run them all off?
He weighs 120 pounds.
Yeah.
He's only 18 months.
He can do it.
Yep. They've been clocked at 40 miles an hour.
Donkeys would do it too. You
Donkeys and llamas are both a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think coyotes will not mess with those.
And last year we did have some issues with a bobcat and an owl.
And that's why he's here now.
That was...
Well, the owl seems to have the advantage because the owl can swoop in, grab something, and then go up where dog can't get
And
him.
all the poultry are locked up at night.
Yeah, okay.
But we had an owl come in broad daylight. Desperation. The deep snow. Can't find any food. It actually
last winter
came
was
at
so
like 9
bad.
o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
It was one of those gray owls from Canada. They don't live around here.
Really?
Yeah.
But they say that
It was last year?
Yes. They say that they will come hundreds of miles to find food. That usually they just live off voles.
Yeah.
But when there's none available because the snow's too deep and they can't find them, and it takes a lot. They say they can break through the crust on the snow that would hold a 180-pound man.
Well, if you see that great gray owl again, I want to know about it. That's really rare. And the
I
last
know. I stood here and watched it kill a duck while I went,
last one I
then
saw
ran
was
after.
actually right
Yeah,
up
then-
Stud Mill Road about 5-6 years ago. Yeah, they
And-
don't get into Maine very much.
No, but I think desperate situation. The snow was so deep last year, so
Oh, yeah.
crusty, so dry that they just couldn't find anything to eat.
Yeah,
That
Because
was
that is
like-
the first owl problem we've ever had, and
and
hopefully
the
the last.
bobcat, after we had to shoot it. And afterwards we felt like crumbs because it was a tiny little female and she was so skinny she was just a skeleton.
But
so
what she was
hungry.
doing in desperation is just killing everything she could get a hold of
right.
and not eating any of it.
Wow.
Just like dragging them into a pile. Like, I will have this for the rest of the winter, and this for the rest of the winter, and this for the rest of the winter.
That can't be
Also
good.
in broad daylight.
Yeah, things like fishers and weasels would be a problem, I would think.
Weasels are a big problem.
They
which
can
is
sneak
why
in.
everything you have to build everything. A weasel can climb through a 1-inch hole, and we have to make sure that everything is secured at night. So, although they do say that geese are good at helping with weasels, because.
Well, geese have an attitude.
And we also have the resident cats, which weren't residents. Someone.
Until somebody dumped them out of their car.
Oh, here?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Half a dozen of them.
Strangest things happen out here. They found goats tied to the gate. Get up in the morning, there's a goat tied to the gate.
And we never understand why, because obviously if someone brought it
And said to us, we need some help, we'd be like, okay.
but people sometimes don't want to.
A couple of them come to our house for a party, and somebody backs in with a trailer with an alpaca saying, will you take this?
And we're on the phone at his party
Trying to make
trying
sure.
to coordinate what we're doing. I didn't want to leave the party.
Well, it's one thing if somebody brings you a pet that they can't take care of anymore, but if they bring you some money to help take care of it, that would be appreciated.
And if they let you know they were coming, that would be really good.
Yeah, because like the goat, it was just tied with a rope around its neck. If it had gotten tangled, it wasn't even tied like in a knot. It was just noosed around its neck.
It could have choked.
An animal like that gets tangled, they don't know enough not to pull.
If you've just joined us, I'm here at Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge in Greenfield. The voices you hear belong to Lynn Stark, her daughters, Georgie and Fawn, and the guy is Randy Blevins. Randy has organized a benefit dance with 8 bands at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Old Town coming up February 21st. That'll be a noon to 7 event, and it's good for families. Now, they need the money for a new barn to take care of some of these exotic animals. But you ask, what about normal animals like cats and dogs? We'll get the story next. There's a wolf coming up, and sooner or later, I'll ask if any of these animals think they're something else. It's Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Today's show is coming to you from Greenfield. On a dirt road off the beaten track in this unincorporated township, there's a refuge for exotic animals that just could never hope to find a home somewhere else. Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge has taken in 100 exotics, including llamas, alpacas, dozens of exotic waterfowl, snakes. They take some pretty abnormal critters, but what about the normal ones?
Well, I understand you can't take cats or dogs.
Well,
really not fit.
We're not set up for them,
Right. And there are pounds for that. There are other places
There
that
are,
can
and
deal
that's
with
one of the things about this place is that there aren't always a lot of people who can, on the spur of the moment, take your llama and your sheep. Or, one year we had over a dozen adult Muscovy ducks and like 30 baby Muscovies that were between 3 weeks and a couple of days old. So
we have little duckies everywhere.
How did you end up with that? I got to ask. I mean, getting a whole flock at once seems a little unusual.
people run upon hard times, and the house that they were, living in, you lose your job, you don't make as much money, whatever. And next thing you know, they're foreclosing, and it's a common thing now. And it's find a place to put them, or what? What do you do with stuff like that if there's not you can't bring them to the pound? So unless there's somewhere you can bring them all of a sudden, and they saw it on Facebook, and were like,
Remember last year that apartment that the police took all those animals out
I
of?
do.
They came here.
Oh. Well, the police obviously.
Debbie Holmes called me up and said, "Do you have room for this and this and this and this?"
Well, the police obviously know about you, but how much of the rest of the population in this area actually knows that Samsara is
we're
here?
trying to do is not only get the word out about the refuge itself, but also like the Sid's Bed and Breakfast thing, because we even had a former animal control officer tell us that one of the saddest things he has to do is take the pets of the elderly. You go and you hurt yourself, you go into the hospital, and then you're in rehabilitation for a month or two, and
They take your pet.
and he said he has no choice. Board can be $15 a day.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
A lot of the donations that we get are cans and bottles. Especially during the fall, we have a bin out front.
There's
and a lot
lots
of the hunters and things all leave their cans and bottles to us.
That's a good thing.
One of the coolest things here, if you look up there on top of that hill over there, Bob, you can see there's a wolf over there.
No, I can't see. Where's this?
Step this way.
From the house to the left, if you look up there on top of the hill, you can see her
Oh,
laying
yes, I
down
can.
up there.
She's watching us.
That's a wolf?
That's a
Yep.
wolf.
Purebred wolf or...
Well, we don't know. We rescued it, but
Rescued,
it's
yeah.
pretty close to. It's not a dog.
She's not people friendly.
No,
She's not aggressive. If you went in there, everywhere you went around that hill, she would be on the other side of it, and you would never see her.
You can't even hardly take a picture of her unless you got a good zoom lens.
Yeah.
You just can't get a
If you
picture.
started walking toward her, she'd just slink down off over the hill, and then she'd play Ring Around the Rosie. You'd never even see she was there.
Well, now, if this were in the wild, that wolf would be up that hill looking at all this food out here.
That's why she's behind 10-foot fence. She's behind 10-foot fence that is anchored at the bottom in concrete. So
Can't dig out, you can't go over.
Yeah. Has she tried much?
There used to be 5 of them in there, but I can't rescue them anymore. So that's the last one. They changed all the rules in Augusta. Behind a desk, somebody in a white shirt and a tie.
Says you have to have a roof on the pen now.
you have to
And a floor.
It has to have a roof and a floor, which is the equivalent of they have to be in a cage.
Well, truth is, our coyotes have some wolf in them because that's
Yes,
how they got here.
Well, that's
how
why
they
they're
got
so
to be.
big.
That's right.
And you still have all the guinea pigs. And
Oh, I have 1 guinea pig, 1 squirrel.
they're all in the house, though, this time of
Yeah,
year.
it's a squirrel from Chile, not a normal
Not a gray squirrel from around here, but everybody needs a Chilean ground squirrel.
It's a bad thing about coming here in the wintertime.
You don't see a lot.
Half
There's a
the
pheasant.
animals are in the house.
Just a Chinese crested pheasant.
golden pheasant.
Golden pheasant. Yeah.
You know, I write that birding column for the Bangor Daily News, so I get email about strange birds people see.
Yeah.
Someone just saw one out in his backyard somewhere just south of Bangor and said, "Is that possible?"
Unfortunately, even with their wings clipped, they can fly 7 feet in the air. That's with clipped wings. Without them, they can fly like any normal pheasant or partridge could. So if someone had some and it managed to escape its enclosure,
Yes.
it is quite possible that they did see one.
That's like peacocks. You ought to see how good they can fly. There's a whole wild population of them in the zoo in New York that live up in the trees that they've never been able to catch.
And
The horses.
Believe it or not, the guineas are actually the guineas come from Africa, and they can fly quite well too. And you find them up in the trees and on the roofs of buildings. And
While you're trying to get them down, they're going higher.
and if you don't make them somewhat tame when they're young, they will fly off into the woods somewhere. And
You'll never see them again.
Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is at Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge in Greenfield. Lynn Stark has raised a son and 6 daughters, and now she's raising 100 exotic animals out here in the woods with the help of her family and a few others. Her daughters, Fawn and Georgie, are doing some of the talking here. They're doing all this without utility power or even running water. It's winter. We're standing right out here in one of the pastures. Now imagine carrying water by hand. How do you keep it unfrozen?
We don't. Every morning we bring water from inside the house because you have to remember that there's no electricity out here, so there's no running water. So we
Bring buckets.
bring buckets of water. We collect the ice out of the animal buckets, add fresh water, bring the ice back inside, let it melt so that we have water the next morning to bring back out, and we keep recycling it and adding snow and ice.
And
All winter long.
melting more. And once in a while, we get a freaky rainstorm like a week ago.
And we fill all
And-
our barrels.
Oh, we had barrels and buckets and every other thing.
And I use I have these large dogs that you see that defend this place. I have the father. He weighs 147 pounds. He pulls the water sled for me
You just line up all the jugs,
in the sled,
those 5-gallon jugs, and he pulls it.
and he pulls it all around. And I dump water and collect ice, and we go back up to my house and bring it inside to be melted. I live through the trees.
You can't see it.
You can't see it, but I live up the hill. We have a path cut through the woods.
Well, as we walk over there, I can give you a true confession. I did not know Samsara was here. The last time I was on this road had to be, 6 years ago. And were you there? You were there?
I've been here 32 years.
Is that right? Did you have the signs out front and everything? I don't know how I missed it.
A lot of people miss it. They'll go right by and they'll say, "We can't find you." They're on the phone saying, "I don't know where it is."
Well,
Okay.
it clears up a big mystery because I was doing a rough grouse survey with Inland Fisheries and Wildlife out on the Stud Mill Road this spring. And in the distance, I could hear all these dogs or something barking. And I said, does somebody have a kennel near here? I had no idea.
And yes, they do.
Yeah, and it turns out it was right here. Yep. And as a crow flies, I couldn't have been more than, probably a mile away.
Right, so you could hear them.
Yes, very clearly. And I remember thinking, what on earth is out there?
Come and meet Sherman so you have an appreciation.
Excuse me for a moment. I'm going to go meet Sherman now. He's the big, and I do mean big, guard dog. He's a Turkish Kendall breed, whatever that is. I'll meet you over by the fence in a moment. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. I'm at Samsara Exotic Animal Refuge in Greenfield, surrounded by critters from away. In fact, most, like the llamas and alpacas and the emu and some of those Asian birds over there, are from a completely different continent. Lynn Stark runs Samsara, but she gets lots of help from her family. Her daughters, Georgie and Fawn, are with us right now, along with the big supporter, Randy Blevins, who will talk about a big barn dance coming up to help them build a new barn. And all of these critters are kept safe by this one big guy right here, a Turkish Kendall, a big guard dog.
So, of course, this guard dog rolls over and exposes his belly right away as soon as a stranger walks up.
They are not human aggressive.
No.
They were never meant to be. They've been bred for 6,000 years to guard livestock, and that's exactly what he does. Although if humans come in here when they're not supposed to, and he knows when they're not supposed to.
Oh boy, oh boy.
He's 18 months. 16 months, something like that.
That is a happy dog.
Which is just a baby bike.
They do, yeah. Kangles don't mature until they're about 3 years old.
So you have 2 of these. Were they the parents or what?
I actually have 7 of them,
Oh, do you really? At the next house over?
but I only have 2 down here working the refuge.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what do the other dogs do if they're not used to, or if they're not currently guarding game.
They guard my. These guys
livestock.
hold the territory. Mm-hmm. So they hold the territory, and up at my house, I have chickens and ducks.
Ah. So they're holding that territory.
Yes.
We didn't even tell you about her.
Yeah. What about this llama?
She was in a truckload of goats going down to Portland to be barbecued.
Somebody eats llama?
Oh yeah, they eat llamas and alpacas.
Well, yeah, but in Portland?
Yeah, all those Somalis
Oh.
and yeah. I guess
A
it's
lot of the immigrants and whatnot that are coming in now eat goats and llamas and alpacas, although it's not something we think of as an edible.
I'm not even sure why they would think that, because llamas are like South American, aren't
Yeah.
they? And so it's not something they would have eaten in their native country.
but goats they would, and
Goats,
so
sure.
maybe they
To
just
them,
saw them like
big goats.
Yeah.
I
Big
guess so.
fuzzy goat.
Well, I don't remember the last time I pushed back from the table and said to myself, boy, that was some good llama.
Yeah, me either. Oh, and this is Pig, our resident.
Pig, oh, here we go.
Pig has a great story.
When I first saw Pig, he was actually a pig.
A little pig.
Well, yeah, no. Yeah. Right, I'm patting the pig. That is some coarse bristle on this stuff. Isn't it? Yeah. So what's the story on the pig?
On Christmas Eve, a school teacher and her family were sitting down to dinner and they heard a funny noise outside. They went to the door and it was this little pig.
Little tiny pig.
Little pig.
Little piglet.
So there was a pig farm, I guess, a couple of miles down the road. They called up the farmer and he came and got it back. But in the meantime, while they had it, they gave it a piece of blueberry pie and a couple of donuts. And the farmer took the piggy home, and it didn't take the piggy long to figure out where the good food was. It kept coming back. And she's a school teacher. She had her class draw pictures of Pig and write stories, and it was all up at the Bangor Mall for people to see the story. And then she was attached to it, and she wouldn't name it. She didn't want to have to think about somebody eating it if it had a name, so his name is still Pig.
Well, Pig seems rather spoiled. Pig is friendly, comes right up looking for a treat. Or...
Oh, yeah.
He'll sit for food like a dog.
Yep.
And she comes to see him.
And he gets all excited when she comes. He remembers.
He runs around the pen, bounces.
Yep.
And she
And-
wanted to find a home for him where he would never be eaten.
Yeah.
Because she said he seemed desperate to change his stars.
And
So 800 pounds later,
he has changed his stars. We've had a little bit of problems. We didn't realize how big he would get, and you can see where he's pushed the fence. But in the spring, it's a whole project. Take it all back apart, put it
make
together.
it pig proof.
Yep.
Well, now that we've closed the distance by half, we're even closer to where the wolf was, and the wolf is now down over the edge and
Yes.
hiding.
She is out of sight.
Yes.
We got too close.
Too close.
That's what she does.
Yeah, I mean, she's used to you. Even when you get too close, she goes to hide.
No, she won't. I can go in there,
Oh,
of
okay.
course. But
Yeah, can you rub her belly?
no.
No.
And Mimi.
Yeah.
Most of the smaller animals they have are they keep inside their house during the winter. So that's animal farming there. Oh, look, there she is right there.
The wolf has come back out.
She's right
She's
there.
at the bottom.
She's running around to hide, but she's right there.
See, we built that building, but it's only half finished on the inside. It's not all insulated, and we were setting it up so that it would have a gas heater. And then when you have pheasants and chucker partridge and rats and
They will be able to go in there in the winter time and
Not-
be warm and safe and not be in mother's
my house.
house.
Well, right now she's been helping too because the two little Cocker Spaniels we're taking care of for somebody are in her house. The two cats are in my house.
So, where's the barn going to go?
See that piece of metal leaning against the fence post at a
Yep.
diagonal from us? Behind that, in that copse right there, behind the big pines.
Because the well is down there. And we managed to get ourselves that. It's a stainless steel tank. We want to build the barn around it so that we can put water in it from the well. And it
400-gallon tank. It'll stay thawed inside the barn just due to body heat and being in an enclosed space. It won't freeze. And we'll have 400 gallons of water that we can use throughout the winter to water animals.
which would be a lot better than 5-gallon buckets like that.
So you make do out here without electricity altogether?
Yes.
So you have any solar or anything like that?
Well,
or
we all
generator?
Like, you can hear her generator.
I can
running.
hear the generator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one up the hill at my house. She's got one at her house.
I got one at my house.
So I have a TV and PS4,
Yeah.
but you got to go out and start the generator.
Yeah. We don't go without anything.
No.
You know, we're warm and comfortable, but
So it's not really roughing it, but it's close.
well, every time the people's power goes off, we all go.
Our power didn't go out.
I do that to people at work because they don't realize we have a generator, and they will say, "Oh, we had no power all night," and I'll be like, "Ours never went out." They're like, "Really? Way out there, you never lost power?" Nope.
You know, the generator's nice. It does add some amenities, but you're still hauling water, hauling firewood, shoveling paths. You know, taking care of animals, and
Hey, we're all in good physical shape from working hard.
I should try that sometime. Nah, it sounds like too much work.
Samsara Exotic Wildlife Refuge is the story today, and part of that story is the need for a new barn. Not a big one or an expensive one. In fact, just about everything out here has been cobbled together from scraps and donations. But for people who know the miracle that Lynn Stark and her family are working out here, there's a lot of support. And some of that will come together in a 7-hour, 8-band dance party, February 21st at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Old Town. Details coming up when Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine resumes on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. We're out at Samsara Exotic Wildlife Refuge in Greenfield. Find them on Facebook, because it's a lot easier than finding them in person. We're way out here in the woods. Samsara needs a barn, so there's a barn dance coming up. Randy Blevins fronts a band called Five Wheel Drive. He's a close friend of the refuge, and is getting all his other close friends to put on a 7-hour dance party.
Well, Randy, why don't you tell me about the barn dance that is coming up?
It's going to be on February the 21st at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Old Town. There's going to be 8 bands of all different genres.
How did you get 8 bands? We used to have a lot of bands. We don't have as many as we used to.
We have a really, really tight-knit music community here. And we started trying to help people. Well, this all started with here 2 years ago. We did a little fundraiser for them here 2 years ago. And all this fencing you can see around you, and a bunch of these little buildings, and basically everything you see here that's done
Or the building. Yep.
that money was used for.
Yeah.
And it was good at the time because the biggest thing they had was Belle and one other goat. They didn't have alpacas and llamas. They had one horse that stayed in there. That was it.
Yep. There go the dogs again.
You have this many big critters. They need a place where they can be in, and life's not easy out here. This is Samsara. You see who runs Samsara, these 3 little bitty women.
I love you. Call little people.
Gee, Randy, I'm going to love you forever.
There are some places you can't say little bitty women and expect not to get slugged.
I got carded the other
I can
day
get away with
town,
things.
Itty bitty.
But I called, when we did the first one, I called a couple of bands, and I put it on Facebook that it was happening, and I started getting bands calling me, wanting to help. Well, I had the same thing this time. I had to turn down 5 bands. We're having 8. I've had 5 more that called and wanted to play, but I just don't have a place to put them. So getting the bands was really not hard. We have really good music community.
We do.
The Knights of Columbus was kind enough, because they love animals, to donate the hall. They're going to have a bar there that you can buy. You can buy soft drinks, or you can buy hard drinks. They're going to sell some food out of the kitchen and recoup their money that way. And we're just trying to get people to come and show some support. And
that's on Sunday, February 21st?
21st.
Yes, and that's like noon to 7, a 7-hour
Noon to 7.
event.
Yep.
You expect people to stay there the whole time? Because they will.
People will be in and out. Some people will stay all day.
Yeah.
The last one, there was no room to sit down anywhere.
Yeah.
If you didn't save a seat, you were out of luck.
And I expect that this one will be the same.
People dancing and eating and having a grand time. It was fun.
And this is the kind of thing kids can come to, too?
Yep.
Yes.
That was always the secret behind Country Sundays in the past. It was a family thing where the kids would have just as much fun as the adults. They can run around practically unsupervised, because there's adults everywhere. So
The last benefit was kids too, and this one will be.
That's
as
the
well.
one thing I would say, if people are going to bring their kids, please do remember we don't have a child care center there.
Yeah.
They're your kids. Please don't just turn them loose on the world. Keep an eye on them. There will be people there drinking. I've never had anybody get drunk and out of hand. Everybody just comes and has fun.
We
But
don't take children at the refuge.
I just want them to know they will be there.
We've already raised them up.
Unsupervised children will be put to work.
So once again, that's February 21st. It's a Sunday. It goes noon to 7. And is there an admission fee or just donation or what?
It's by donation. The suggested donation is $10. We're not turning anybody away. If they've got $2 to give, we'll take it. If they want to give $100, man, do it. I'm for you.
Yeah.
And there will be some people that will. God love them. Also, we ask that if you have things that the refuge can use, like half-empty paint cans, pallets, any building materials, any old
You would not
fencing.
believe that whole entire chicken house, that tan house you see where the chickens were, that is built entirely out of scrap lumber.
You'd be amazed at
we're
stuff they
good
can use.
at that.
5-gallon buckets.
You got to make do with what you got.
Any kind of shovels, any kind of implements, hand implements, hammers, nails,
Oh,
wrenches.
yeah, nails and screws and things, we'll take those all day long.
All right.
And one lady came and she said, when we were at the last fundraiser, she said, "Could you use an umbrella?" And she handed me this little red umbrella, and I was thinking, well, do you know how many times I put that up and run back and forth between the buildings to keep from getting wet? I didn't think of an umbrella, but
Well, that should be something on your Facebook page, a wish list of things you actually need.
We have posted several times on the benefit page just the kinds of things that are helpful to donate.
And bottles and cans. If somebody has a bunch of bottles and cans and don't have anywhere, if they'll bring them to the fundraiser, we'll take them and they'll go cash them in and use them. That bin out there full buys 100 pounds of grain.
So if I bring my bottles and cans here anytime during 24 hours a day, I can drop them off there?
Yes, sir.
there's a bin on the outside of the fence.
Oh, I think I have a new home for my things.
And we'd be grateful.
And we bag them up and we count them and I take them to town.
What Randy didn't tell you is he's talking about the great music community. You don't know how many times I've seen them come together with 5 or 6 bands for some family that's battling cancer.
Down on their luck.
Over and over and over. I don't know. I don't think you guys ever do a gig where you get paid.
That is probably close to true.
Well, we get paid on some gigs. I don't know that we make any money, but we get paid. But these are the ones we love. We all love, not just our band.
Yeah.
The entire music community here. It's crazy how people will just jump in and they don't mind coming and donating their time and their talents. It's amazing to me the things we've been able to do. Now we got to build a barn. It's got to happen.
You have a price tag in that barn yet? How much you have to
I'm
raise?
figuring that barn's going to cost $10,000 anyway. That's probably a minimum. We're going to do everything we can to get that done.
Yeah. Well, a good barn dance like you're planning will get you a good part of the way there.
I certainly hope you're right, sir. That's the plan. I have seen $10,000 raised at these things before. I'd sure love to see that again.
Today our treasurer had the perfect thing. She said, well, we have no money, so I'm all done. I'm going home.
Accounting's pretty easy when you get nothing, isn't it?
So I take off the accounting hat and then I put on my carpenter hat. I built the emu, the alpaca in the llama house this summer. The shed for the horses, 2 chicken houses.
Do you have any
Strung
emus at the moment?
fence.
Yeah,
We do.
one.
Yeah. Where's he?
She's
Down on the
there.
other
Oh,
end.
she. Okay.
Yeah,
He's down at
that's
the
a
other
he.
end. You can see him pacing the fence if you look past the horses.
Oh, yes, I can. Yep. Okay. How'd you end up with an emu?
He was a little bit of a baby thing, believe it or not. Oh, he actually wore a dog sweater when it was chilly out. It was the beginning of May, and he isn't a wild animal anymore. He's more of a pet. My son made him into the friendliest thing on earth, running around through the field with that thing following at his heels. They can run almost 40 miles an hour.
Do you ever have any species in here that think they're something else because they hang around?
All the time. We have a chicken that was hatched. Actually, we have 2 chickens now on the property that were both hatched out by ducks.
They don't know
One
they're
by a
chickens.
Muscovy, the other one by a regular
Regular
blue
duck.
Swedish duck.
And
But
they
he's a
don't-
lousy swimmer.
Well, they don't know they're chickens.
They stick with the ducks. They hang with the ducks. They follow the ducks everywhere.
And the chickens treat them like they're not chickens.
The most amazing thing to me, Bob, and they don't like it when I tell this, but it's true. They run this thing on this little lady's Social Security check and whatever donations they can get. And she works a full-time 60-hour-a-week job, and she runs her kennel and does all the work out here. But this is the financier at this point.
Well,
There's nothing there.
what would I do with that Social Security instead?
Well,
Go on a cruise?
That
I
sounds
still
good.
think
There'd
you
be
should-
some old guy with a cane trying to pinch my bottom, and I'd get mad.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you said that's as much as we can handle?
Yes.
It has happened, and then of course we find homes for things, and then we have more room, and we take in more things.
And that's it from Samsara Exotic Wildlife Refuge. The Big Barn Dance fundraiser is coming up February 21st at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Old Town, noon to 7. This show and all previous shows are archived on the web at 929theticket.com. A new show next week, Saturday morning at 9, Sunday morning at 8. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS on Sports Radio 929 The Ticket.